We News is being brought to you in part by Nigel Arcan Booksellers, Flowerline and the NLCB.
Good evening. This is We News on Gayelle the channel. I am Conrad Paris. Cindy F. Daniel has the evening off. Last evening, the 2009 Ryder Scott report on Trinidad and Tobago's known gas reserves was released. This latest report puts our proven gas reserves at 10 years. Trinidad and Tobago's Energy Minister Caroline Sipasad-Bechan explained that in order to satisfy the country's demand for natural gas, TNT had been tapping into reserves at a rate of 1.4 trillion cubic feet annually. What does that mean for Trinidad and Tobago's economy, which is, at this point, based on the export of liquefied natural gas as well as other heavy gas-based industries? We News spoke with Michelle Alum, petroleum geoscientist, about what the study means and other avenues that can be explored to replenish our reserves.
Said that there are 10 years left, basically, but that is based on the Ryder Scott report, which is a very conservative report, and it takes into account only the proven reserves of the country. So it's basically a bare minimum because, you know, any country anywhere also has probable reserves and possible reserves, but those are not counted in the Ryder Scott report. So it would only be the reserves that they're actually wells drilled into that would be included in I think it was 15 TCF figure that she gave. The company where I work, Petrocom Technologies, is actually working with the Ministry of Energy to do a research manuscript on the hydrocarbon potential in the deep and ultra-deep water. And from what we have seen so far, there is some potential for gas and condensates in the deep water acreage. So you can't say that this reserve amount given by Ryder Scott is a fixed amount. As more exploration is done, more reserves will be found. And from what we're seeing, there are more reserves there to be found.
Meanwhile, former Energy Minister Conrad Enel, who had suggested deep-sea drilling for gas, explained the basis for this suggestion and the research that the former PNM government had put into this possible solution.
A lot of the activities that take place in the energy sector today take place, in a sense, underwater. Now, what is being proposed for Trinidad and Tobago is that all the drilling has taken place in what we call shallow waters. That is to say, waters of a particular depth, companies have gone in and they have been able to get production. So when we look at what is required for future sustainability, we realize that you can no longer get it in the areas that you went before. And therefore there's an unexplored frontier in Trinidad and Tobago called deep sea. And that is the new frontier that we had identified as the place that you now had to go. Because in looking at the total acreage available in Trinidad and Tobago, we had not explored 2/3 of that acreage. The only area for exploration right now, therefore, where you think you can get significant volumes of gas is in what we call deep sea. So that we've looked around the world and we've seen many, many countries who have been successful in deep sea drilling. And yes, it has its risks with it, as we are seeing with the BP well off Mexico, but that business prides itself on managing health and safety issues in a particular way, and I think that they will recover from that as well.
But with the Deepwater Horizon crisis in the Gulf of Mexico still fresh in the minds of many, what are some of the dangers associated with deepwater drilling? Michelle Alum explains.
There may be some public concern that deep water drilling is hazardous, but it isn't really the fact that you're drilling in the deep water that is the problem. Anytime you drill a well, there are certain things that need to be put into place. One of the major hazards when you're drilling in the deep water is the extreme pressure that you encounter. But you encounter this in shallow drilling projects as well. but there are strict procedures that need to be put into place. With the Gulf of Mexico, the blowout preventer was not up to the level, the standard that it should have been at. So it's not so much that deep water drilling is dangerous. It's more that the companies involved need to make sure that they operate in the highest standards and maintain that. And perhaps in Trinidad, what we can do is try to target some of the oil and gas companies that have been successful in deep water drilling, like Statoil from Norway, because this will increase our chances of safely finding the commercial hydrocarbons offshore.
Now, is the gas worth more to us out of the ground than in the ground? We also spoke with petroleum engineer Reginald Potter to find out if it's too late for more exploration.
Well, we have no alternative. We've got to explore more. But they've left it so late that exploration cannot solve the situation. We're heading for a decline in production. The last government and this one has said, yes, we must explore. I even saw a comment by Minister Enil, former Minister Enil, that we started last year. That's absolutely ridiculous. We should have started about 2004. And we must explore. We have no choice. The question is, can we maintain the levels of production that we have now, feeding our industries, constantly, without suffering a decline before new production is brought on stream? And I don't think we can. I think we've left it too late. The country will suffer a decline in production before we manage to get adequate reserves on production to make up the loss.
Mr. Potter also stressed the need for diversification as a long-term economic strategy.
There's no doubt that diversification of the economy must occur. I don't think there's even the remotest chance that we will remain a major exporter of gas. The remaining prospects for Trinidad are not terribly good. They are mostly in deep water, where it's rather like BP has found out in their well that's blowing out in the Gulf of Mexico. It's extremely expensive to drill it. You have to be very lucky to find anything, and then extremely expensive to bring it on production. So the outlook is rather gloomy. I think we better diversify as fast as we can.
So, we're talking about the economy and what we can do to draw investors, tap into our resources, make some more money, etc. Meanwhile, members of parliament take a very different approach to addressing the issues that are affecting the country. Here's Jomo Williams to give a breakdown.
Yes, the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago is now in full swing, and dare I say SSDD. While I dare not on this platform give you the correct meaning for the acronym, let us say it stands for Same Stupidity, Different Day. While we, the man in the street, seek to etch out some degree of a life, while certain food items are priced so high that they are no longer a staple but a delicacy, while we still have to sit in 3 hours of gridlock traffic on the nation's roadways, while crime in this country continues to gain momentum and those who are supposed to be stemming the flow seem to have no clue. In the middle of a recent Senate debate on a government motion dealing with the state of the economy, opposition Senator Fitzgerald Hines, in his contribution to the debate, chose to bring to light that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, during her recent visit to Jamaica, went out dancing. I mean, what does that have to do with our economic situation, Mr. Hines? Hines' comments came after Senator Lindira Udit painted a gloomy picture of the economy, casting blame on the previous administration. She said under the former administration, there had been no improvements in the standard of living for people. She also said, according to a World Bank report of 2009, that 21% of our population is living below US $1 a day, which is the lowest benchmark figure for the poverty line. Independent Senator Subhash Ramkelawan brought clarification to the Senate and said he had read the report and the figure was TT $630 a month. Well, I may not be a politician or an economist, but I don't think $630 a month is anything to brag about. Hines questioned Udit's credibility and said her statements about the economy were not in accordance with statements by her leader. Quoting from an article, Hines said Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar told investors in Miami that the 1,100-acre Tamina Intech Park at Wallerfield offered significant investment potential in the information and communication technology sector. He added that Prasad-Bissessar was not gracious to mention that the Intech Park was an initiative by the People's National Movement. I mean, really? Come on. When will these politicians grow up and deal with the business of the day instead of all the political grandstanding and backpatting? This has been Jomo Williams for We News.
Well, we're taking a quick break now. When we return, time to get on the alert for dengue.